Hi there, and welcome to this week's episode of Considering Comic Books. This week,
in the bar,
I should mention, with the absolute degenerate reprobate that is my good friend, comic book artist extraordinaire, Ryan Brown. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And say hello to his lovely wife, Helena Brown, who also has to be here to suffer through this podcast.
Hello.
She is the real artist, or so I am told. So anyway, Ryan.
Piss artist.
Piss artist. Ryan, how did you get started in comics, bro?
Well, I'm actually not in comics. I'm the other Ryan Brown.
There is another Ryan Brown. Just so people know, there's another Ryan Brown who works for IDW Comics. He is interior pencils, isn't he?
Yeah, well, there's like a Ryan Brown with an E, and then there's like another Ryan Brown. He did like Ninja Turtle stuff years ago in the 80s or whatever, and he designed loads of the wee action figures of the Ninja Turtles. And
oh, really? I didn't know he had such a storied history. Just to clarify then, the Ryan Brown that we're talking to specialises in cover art, and he has done some interiors.
And needlework.
He has done some interiors working with me. The only interiors
I did is housing interiors, painting walls and decorating, and what do you call that? Helena actually shook her head. That's I haven't did any work in interiors.
Because you're just spoofing. You haven't done any painting, have you?
That's totally true.
Yeah. So it's strictly cover art. So strictly cover art. How did you get into cover art then? Because I've heard you the last time we were in Dublin. You spoke about it with our pal Philip Simon, the Darkhorse editor, and how you'd got in touch with him, I believe. So, do you want to recount that story here for our lovely listeners?
Oh, yes. Hello, lovely listeners. I've got a lovely story for you. It's got ups and downs, and it may bring some of you to tears.
It's like a Dostoevsky story in that it's going to be very miserable, but hopefully you'll learn something from it.
Yes, it's miserable, but then it has like an uplifting end to it. No, it doesn't at all. It's very boring. But I don't know. It's very complicated and very long. But generally, I worked in a martial arts shop, and the martial arts shop actually closed, so I was stuck with no job. And I was running around trying to get a job as like a fireman. So, this is the hilarious one. So me and Helena would go up into like the forest, and she would have one of those beat machine things, and I would run between two posts to try and beat the beeps, and training to get this fire service sort of thing. And then when I got, weirdly enough, I actually passed, and so I passed all that, but I didn't get any further because they probably thought I was like a bullshitter and not actually, please, sir, I really want to be a fireman. It's like, it's so weirdly. Then I went in to be a plasterer for the housing executive, and I was interviewed by two people, probably about 25 years younger than me, and they looked like. I don't know. Well, I'm not insulting people that work at Burger King, but they looked like they worked at Burger King. And they were sitting in front of me, and I was trying to explain to them how I would be the best hole plasterer. And but weirdly enough, I don't know. They just give me the stare of death, and I didn't get that job either. So
that's so surprising.
Yeah. So it's weird. It kind of went on like that. All these different jobs, didn't get any of them. I started getting really desperate. I was like an extra for the Game of Thrones for like for a week, and I lasted. Well, it was 6 days. One of the days I had like a strop, like a A-list celebrity strop, and said, "I'm not going back there. I'm not going back," And the night, because the reason I had that strop was because I was like there for archery, so I was with a group of people to do archery, and all the nights we were there, they didn't actually do anything. We all just stood around, so I was getting raging, really angry. So the night I said, that's it, I'm not coming back, I left. That night they were all going crazy, firing arrows everywhere, and there was people on horses and swords swinging and all over the place. It was, well, this is a long story, but
so the archery that you'd been signed on to do, you didn't get to do any of it, and you missed out on it because you threw a strap.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And
but here we were trying to get to the point of you being an artist.
That's why I was saying it's a long story. It's like, what is that? What film that's really long, or the book or something? I don't know. It's like that.
There's a couple. Maybe something written by Alexander Dumas, like the Man in the Iron Mask. This is the Man in the Iron Mask of origin stories.
This is chapter 1. Yeah, but I don't know shit. Right, okay, how did it start? Yes. So I was on the Game of Thrones, and then what happened was, I can't remember, but Simon Bisley contacted me for some reason and said, do you want to colour a whole pile of pages? So
wait, how did you know Bisley, though?
We had worked with Bisley, me and the two brothers had worked with Bisley doing a thing called The Dead, and it was like 10 years before that.
So hold on just a second. Right? Just reverse.
I'm reversing.
We're talking about how you got into comics, right? And it turns out you made your own comic 10 years previous that you were just going to neglect telling anyone about.
But I don't know what I was doing there. I was doing like a Quentin Tarantino film, right? Where I tell a bit of the story, then I go backwards in time after that, you know.
Was it kind of like time jumps?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was doing. So hold on a second. 10 years before that.
Previously.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I was like, I don't know. Right, okay. I've already told you about the Game of... No, not the Game of... Oh, I have told you the Game of Thrones. No, yes. The Dead. We were doing like a thing with The Dead. And Alan Grant wrote it. Simon Bisley did the interiors.
How did you get in touch with Alan Grant and Simon Bisley, though?
Hi. My brother, Andrew...
is an art dealer.
Yeah. He's an art dealer, and he's known Bisley for years, since he was a teenager, and he used to go over to Bisley's house and stay in his house when he was an actual teenager and stuff, you know. Nothing happened as far as I know.
Oh my god.
I got the doll out and said, did he touch you in any of these places? And he said no. So everything's fine. But so what was... I don't even know whether we can put that in, can we? Right.
Too late.
Everybody, forget about that. Forget about that. Back to normal.
Oh, fuck.
Right, so what are we still back on? I got into comics.
Some woman has just walked past with her baby. and I mean, we're in a bar. I should tell people we're in a bar, but there was a part of me that was like, oh god, that was deeply inappropriate.
Yes.
But anyway, yes, you got into comics.
Okay, so we'll just say I got into comics, right? Okay, so I think the first we did maybe about 2,500 pages. Simon drew them. I digitally painted over his line art for Legendary Entertainment, for the Tar Chronicles. That was my first job.
You taught yourself how to do this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yes, thank you. We had food there.
We had dinner. It was very nice.
Yeah.
Chicken tempura.
Yeah. I had like a burger with what do you call those? Crunchy onions.
Oh yeah.
Crispy onions, not crunchy onions. That's something different. Right. Okay, back to comics. Jesus Christ, this is not professional at all.
It's just standard. I mean, this is my podcast. Man, we're recording this off a phone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to conserve battery, so you know.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So where was it? What was I saying?
You were saying, you got into comics.
Oh yes.
And you didn't want to tell exactly how.
So what?
Complicated.
Cover stuff. I think the first covers I did were for IDW, and it was the it was V-Wars. Thunder Age. Yes, I did a couple of paint overs with that, with Greg Staples had asked me did I want to get in and paint over some of his line art for the Judge Dredd year one for IDW.
Oh, okay.
So I painted over some of his line art and stuff.
How did you get to know Greg Staples? Just through Andrew?
I think it was through Andrew and through going to some of the comic conventions and stuff.
Something I guess people something people would be interested in, I guess, is that you sort of get to know everybody through the conventions and through, so the community is quite tight, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. It is really good because you go to a lot of these conventions, and I remember I was going to conventions a long time ago with Andrew whenever I wasn't working in comics at all, and I would meet a lot of people. I met Liam Sharp, the
stuff is amazing.
Yeah, very, very good, very good. He's doing very well.
It's brave at the minute. At the minute,
incredible.
Off the hook. I saw he had a gallery as well.
And
he's doing really well.
You know, he has a lot of different styles, his painted style and stuff, and his line work. Incredible. But when you go to these conventions, you meet a lot of artists, and you know, they're very, very nice, very friendly, and it gives you a face behind the art, and it kind of, I don't know, it sort of changes your view on the actual art. I don't know.
And also, it's good because you get the network, really, isn't it?
Totally.
And people give you good advice. Yeah. So for budding artists and writers or whatever, the networking end of it is invaluable because it's just really nice to talk to people, if you ever hear Neil Gaiman talk about his experience getting in, it was all about networking, meeting the right people, writing for the publications that would boost your exposure, and that seems to be very much.
Oh God, it is one of the things. You know, it's one of the major things. The thing about it is. Facebook and social media has opened everything up, and you can chat to people now. You can chat to, artists in America or writers in America, and you can, if you're lucky, strike up a bit of a friendship with them, and they can give you advice as well. And that's one way to do it. But definitely going to a convention is the best. A face-to-face sort of conversation with somebody is worth 100 emails, really,
I think the important thing as well, what's interesting is I've certainly encountered people who've just been straight up all about business.
Yeah.
And they've been like, it's almost like that's all they're interested in. Yeah. Whereas I find people who are personable and, quite nice people always do better in the whole networking scheme of things.
Yeah. Well, somebody said before, if you've got like two of the three things, it's like, easy to work with, reliable, fast and reliable, and you have a talent. If you've got two of those, then you'll go far. And I'm always of the opinion that you have to be friendly and nice to people. It's not that you're forcing it. You need to appreciate. Everybody is going through the whole process. It's comics, like anything, it's a hard business. It's a hard job. Freelance is hard. There's a lot of pressures. You're working 24/7 a lot of the time, and you don't know where your next job's coming from. And
a lot of grinding, a lot of hustling. Yeah.
And you have to respect all the other people that are working in it.
Well, I think it's good to cultivate those personality traits in yourself anyway, where just being a nice person and being good to other people and helping people out, which is how Ryan and I met. It turns out I knew him from the martial arts shop, but we ended up meeting again through our mutual friend Glenn Fabry, who had said he would do an interior strip for me, but then realised that he was in fact drunk whenever he made that promise and wasn't going to do it. So he said in his words, he said,
Andrew's brother Ryan might be able to help you.
And he aimed me at Ryan, and it turned out, we knew each other, so we went for a pint.
And then I promised to do it, and I never did it.
I mean, he didn't. What was it? It took us like, how long did it take us? Like 2 years?
Jesus,
2 years.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was about, well, he said he would do it 2 years later.
Yeah.
2 years later we did it, but it wasn't my thing. It was, Ryan had an idea, and he said to me, he said, I want you to do this project with me. And I had to basically work out how to write things while Ryan tortured me to make sure they were to his specifications. Listen to the gleeful laughter.
Look, I don't know. What can I say? I have mental illnesses.
Don't we all?
I don't know. I think they work in comics. You have to have mental illnesses.
Well, I certainly think creative people tend to be more on, well, I guess you could say it about any discipline.
Yeah.
It helps if you're a bit on the spectrum, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
If you're a bit OCD or you're a bit anally retentive about things, that level of perfection, and I've watched you be very, very perfectionist about your work.
Yeah. Well, that is me generally. You know, it's like I see. If you're an artist, you know, there's certain artists. Well, there's two types of artists. There's the artists that love their work, and I don't know whether they get much better. Usually, they stay at a certain level because of the reason they're happy at their skill level. They don't push themselves. Then there's the other artist that absolutely hates their work and constantly, sees the fault in everything they do, and therefore keeps trying to evolve and get better and get better and get better. The problem with that is you hate everything you do, and that's not the type of person that wants to then show their artwork to the world.
And that's you, isn't it, really?
Totally. But there's a lot of art. This is why when I started going to conventions, I was sitting beside another artist and I would chat to them, and I would be trying to feel out the way they think about their own art. And it turns out, there's an awful lot of people in the same boat. They absolutely hate their own art. And this, I mean, I've even got stuff from professional artists like, I've said to them, why don't you put your work on Facebook? And they've said to me things like, who would want to see my stuff? And that's that they're professional artists that actually work in the business, in the industry, and they think that people wouldn't want to see their artwork. And this is a reason why there's a lot of really good artists that fall.
Bit of drama.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of really good artists that fall through the cracks and don't make it big, because you need to be an artist and a businessman, and a businessman is a completely different brain to an artist. A businessman has to say, this is the greatest thing ever, this artwork is incredible, and let's push this and push it and push it, where the artist is saying, oh no, it's not right, let's just leave it for a month and come back to it and try and rework it a wee bit until it's correct. And that's the thing that I have to fight with all the time in my head.
It's almost like a weird dichotomy, where you've got a side of yourself that is sort of introverted and self-critical, yet you've got this other side of yourself that knows you have to hustle, and you have to sell the stuff.
It's one of those funny things as well. Art, there's an awful lot to art. There's an awful lot to learn about art, and there's a lot of tricks that you can use, like looking at an image in reverse, flipping the image, or looking at it upside down, or all the values reading and stuff, because sometimes you look at an image so long that you become snowblind to it, and you truly cannot tell whether it is really good or it's utter crap. You can't tell, and sometimes you need to use these little tricks. I wish I learned a lot of those tricks when I went to art college, but unfortunately art college is one of those places where people just go, well, I know in Northern Ireland and as far as I hear in the UK and in England, and stuff, it's the same over there. Basically, people go and they just spend 4 years in the bar, because they're taught nothing.
This is quite interesting because you've spoke about this before, and that is that there's kind of a postmodern art technique where that real skill and craftsmanship can be abandoned if you can justify, a rusty pipe with, a tin of beans poured on it.
Yeah, which is, in my opinion, a disgrace.
I know, I tend to agree with you, and it's one of those things about, there's that great story about somebody in the Tate Modern sat down a pair of glasses that he was wearing and stood looking at them, and within 15 minutes he was surrounded by a group of people all stood postulating over these glasses. They were his glasses, he brought them in and sat them down, but in that building they constituted modern art. People looked at them like that, which, if you're somebody who really enjoys the craft of creating beautiful imagery, if you look at all the Renaissance art and you look at that great period of British art, the Francis Bacon period, all these astounding portrait painters, then you have to look at that stuff and go, well, it's kind of bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
that's what I think. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Look, I'm all about the skill. The composition, the light and dark, the contrast, the anatomy. Texture. There's an awful lot to learn. There's an awful lot of, and to say, representational art or figure art, drawn figures and all the rest of the stuff. Well, we don't need anymore because we've got, cameras and blah, blah, blah. And, it's utter madness. And the funny thing is, in our college, it's gone. There isn't, I don't know any in UK art colleges that actually teach how to draw.
Well, in America you do have schools like fine art schools for comic book artists.
There,
Like very famously, you've got the Joe Kubert School of comic book art, and these guys. I remember whenever I was doing art, I did art up to A level, and I was looking at guys like John Buscema's How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, Andy and Adam Kubert, all these great artists who, they focused on dynamic figures, anatomy, great landscapes. So they covered all the bases for you. But from what I understood in my own experience in art, that wasn't what they wanted in the colleges. They wanted you to justify in interesting terms something that you had created, and that thing could be anything as long as you could give sort of a wanky justification for why you'd made it.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Does that sound true?
And it is true, and it is unfortunate, but you could spend a lifetime learning how to draw. Anatomy alone is just utter madness. The amount of information there is there, it's just, and to make something look like it's alive, friggin' hell, it's. There are incredible artists out there, and I think comic art is such a hard thing because you have to be able to draw everything. You have to draw, and what I mean is like interior art. Interior art is you have to draw panels of this angle, that person from that angle, cars, buildings, all types of things. Develop or creating, monsters, whatever. It's. So, I've got a big respect for interior artists and people who can do that really fast, I've sort of stuck to the cover art for a lot of different reasons. One of the reasons is, I think I would get really bored if I was doing interior stuff,
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of, I like the idea of like an image that tells the story. It tells the story, then bang, leave that, and now you're off drawing friggin', I don't know, something completely different. You're constantly moving from subject to subject.
So what is it about covers that appeals to you? Specifically just the idea that you can use one singular image to create a whole story?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, when you saw all the creepy and eerie stuff from years ago, you saw all that, and, I used to collect Scream when I was a kid, and it was all those covers, and it was all that kind of the pulp, covers.
And the covers were what drew you in?
Of course, the Frazetta stuff, and then I remember one of the very first comics I ever got was the Judgment in Gotham, Simon Bisley. I just thought, holy shit, as everybody did, and I thought, how the hell do you do that? How do you paint like that? And
I think Judgment in Gotham, along with Slane, really redefined the artwork of that period, and you were quite lucky because you had Bisley as a mentor.
Yeah, I mean, Bisley has helped me a lot. Whenever I had a question about something, or most of the time it would be, I'd phone him up and say, could you help me with this image, or is there something wrong with this image? Because it's good to get a second pair of eyes on something, and very often he could just say in a couple of seconds he would say this, change this, and a lot of
he also wasn't afraid to tell you when something was bad.
Oh, definitely not. He would just say, "What's this shit?" But it's but you have to hear straight. You can't pussyfoot around this stuff, or else you cause a problem where the artist does not know what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, it's like someone putting their art up on Facebook, and all their family and friends go, oh, that's amazing, it's really, really good, I love what you're doing. What you really need is someone who's going to tell you what's wrong with it, not what's right with it.
But genuine, genuine critique, rather than just, sort of, you're an asshole and I hate your beard, type of thing.
I get that a lot.
It needs to be a problem. And if you can get somebody, very often the changes were small changes, little changes, but in my mind it was a big thing, and it made, well, obviously it did make a big difference, and it helped me a lot, and he has totally helped me an awful lot, really, with the stuff, psychologically I feel, a lot more, I don't know, confident, with the stuff. But saying that still, I still, when I go to conventions, I still feel like I'm kind of a bit of an imposter, and there's like all the other artists. They're obviously far more talented artists, and they've been there for a lot longer as well. And so I still feel very uncomfortable whenever I go there. And sort of, it's almost like that TV show, Faking It, where I'm I have to hold a couple of paintbrushes in my hand or something and stand there with paint cut, and I'm moustache and a beret, and I say, I am a painter. It's one of those sort of things.
The funny thing is, you spoke to me before about having what you felt was imposter syndrome, and I'm a writer, so and I've got a very small level of success. I'm only really I've got a toe on the bottom rung of the ladder, and anytime I'm talking to other writers, I feel like a total imposter. Yes. So I do understand it. Oh, hold on, Helena's getting around.
Just to see him.
Rockshore.
Oh, Rockshore. Yeah.
Rockshore. Thank you very much, Helena, and thanks for tolerating this long, lingering podcast. So,
HelenaRogan.org.
It's
Helena Rogan art, isn't it?
Helena Rogan art. Helena's also an artist, as John Burtis would say. Helena Rogan is the artist, the real artist in the relationship.
God damn
Ryan Brown only does things on the computer.
Well, that wouldn't be totally true.
And he will argue with you about that.
Well, that is the thing. It's kind of, people had this. I kept hearing for years, it's computer art, and blah blah blah. So it kind of, it really pissed me off for a good long time. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do a bit of painting, acrylic painting and stuff. And I think the third painting I did was the painting for the Heavy Metal magazine cover. For the. It was going into an art gallery in Santa Monica. the thing about it is the technique is exactly the same. The way I paint digitally is exactly the same as I paint physically with acrylic paint. You could get a photograph and paint over it on Photoshop and stuff, but I don't see any problem with anybody doing that, but myself, I want to kind of make everything really hard for myself because I always feel like guilty or something. I feel like it's, I'm not really drawing it if I'm not actually physically doing it the hardest way,
Yeah. Before we talk more about that, it's interesting because you are a martial artist and you have a similar attitude towards your training, don't you? You really love to put yourself through the hell of really difficult training, and that also seems to be your technique whenever you're creating art.
Yeah, I think it's just a personality. I think it's just a personality that I am obsessed with trying to get things right. Now, it doesn't mean that everything that I do is right. Because
it is an obsession.
It is an obsession. Yeah, it's total obsession. I take art extremely seriously. It's not even. It's not even a career. It's like it's a way of life, and it's. I'm extremely serious about it. Now, I'm not saying I'm any different to a lot of other people. There's a lot of extremely serious artists out there, but I'm just explaining my kind of thought behind it. But yeah, I mean, I am not where I want to be, and I have a lot to learn still, an awful lot to learn. But what I find is working in this industry, you have to learn very fast. Like I have to produce covers quickly, and I have to draw things I've never drawn before, and I'm trying to fill all the gaps where the funny thing was when I went to art college, I was there for maybe 6 years, and I never drew at all at art college. So those 6 years, those 6 years, thank you,
Helena.
Those 6 years basically put me back, I think, but then it also gave me a focus whenever I actually started to work in the business. Whenever I started working in comics, I was doing something like 14-hour days, and it was like 7 days a week, and extreme amounts of work. I racked my back, my fingers, my small fingers were going numb from rubbing on the board. My eyes were going blurry. I developed so many injuries from like sitting down.
This is interesting, and it's something I wanted to come back to, and that is your motivation for doing comic book art wasn't just as you'd mentioned previously the need for a job. It was also, I'm gonna say, your irks at the art college and the fact that this was an institution that you had no joy with. And they very much didn't like your style of art, yet your art is applauded by comic book fans. So it's almost like you wanted to show.
Well, I was told I would never be an illustrator, or there was never, there are basically no jobs in illustration. And it's kind of funny because, well, I don't know. I mean, it's such a complicated. There's a lot of detail in the story of art college, but I don't know. All I can say is, I don't think I would have been happy working a 9-to-5 job that I had a feeling that I had to push myself in like a creative sort of field,
Well, this is interesting because if you ever listen to Elizabeth Gilbert talk about writing, she always talks about it as a vocation, and it's almost like there's a creative personality type that feels compelled to do art or writing or film or music or whatever it may be. The same way there's sporty people, there's people who are interested in going into the army, whatever it is. It's almost like there is a personality types that gravitate to those types of jobs, and if you don't do them, you won't feel fulfilled. So you found yourself drawn into the art field, and it was almost like a compulsion.
And that compulsion sort of pushed me to show or to put the art in front of people, because I was always really worried about doing a cover, and I still am, about doing a cover and then it gets printed and there's like thousands of copies of your cover out there, and then I look at it and all I can see is the faults in it and stuff, and that still concerns me. It sort of drives me to do the best I can with the stuff, but I think it's just one of those things that, like, I've spoke to Glenn and various people, and they a lot of people have the same sort of worries, so it makes you feel a wee bit better when you're surrounded by, as I said at conventions, a lot of other artists that you can actually speak to, and you can hear, well, I mean, we all have the same sort of mental illnesses.
It's good to be in that community, and it's good also to have people who can act in the capacity of a mentor of sorts and give you advice, especially if they're already in there and they can say, well, this is my process. And I noticed that a lot of what artists do whenever they meet up is talk shop.
Yeah, they do. Probably because, in comics, you basically sit at home all the time. You work away. You maybe have something working or running in the background, TV or music or something. But you're basically on your own most of the time, to get the work done. And so you don't really see a lot of people. And I think when the artists and writers go to a convention, that they're able to speak to people that understand. It's like you were all in Vietnam or something. You weren't there, man. You weren't there.
You got the 1,000-yard stare.
That's it. I'll tell you. Yeah, you have, like, comic artists and writers have the 1,000-yard stare.
I've noticed.
They're all traumatized by working at home all the time. I'm traumatized because I've got a cat at home. And he comes over to me and stands looking at me and meows, and then I have to bring him outside, then I bring him back in, then I have to play with his toy, then I have to give him some more food, then he gets the crazy and runs around and jumps all over the place, and I have to stroke him for a while, and this is like all day, every single day, and I'm like, my hair is literally falling out in clumps for the trauma of trying to do work, going, oh my god, I've only got a load of hours to finish this cover.
I love that part of the stress incorporated into your artistic process is from an overbonded cat.
Yes, totally.
Who demands your attention. I think because you've got a voracious appetite for self-improvement, it's almost one of your it's almost like one of your core sensibilities as a person. Your stuff has been getting better. I saw your initial stuff.
Yeah.
And
shit. Just say it.
Not shit, but there was a lot of room. There was a lot of wiggle room, Yeah, but there was a lot of wiggle room for improvement, and the stuff is getting progressively to the point where I've been very, very impressed. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass.
Oh no, I can feel it.
Is it getting hot up there?
Yeah.
That's not smoke. That's all that rock sugar we've been drinking, loosening your bowels. But anyway, I mean, the point is that I think your stuff is getting a lot better. And what is the goal for going forward, 2018? What is it that you're interested in doing? Because so far it's been covers for Darkhorse, IDW. You've done a lot of Ninja Turtles stuff. Certainly one of my favorite series. Under Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman. There was talk of maybe some Transformers stuff, maybe in the future, or
possibly, but maybe I would like to. There's a list of things that I want to do. From like when I was a kid and various things, and I would like to do the odd Transformers thing. I think at some point.
I think one of your big passions, and you should maybe let people know, is horror.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Projects come up every once in a while that like I kind of go, oh right, this is going to allow me to do what I want, and I've always had like a fascination with horror. Here's the funny story, right? Whenever I was maybe about 8, there was a guy that used to live across the street from us, and it was like an oldish man, and we're talking like in the 80s. Halloween night, the door rapped. I went to the door. There was like a guy behind the door wearing a mask. It was like a vampire sort of mask. But you're talking in the 80s when in Northern Ireland, all anybody would see would be these plastic, really crap masks. This was like a rubber latex mask, and he was there. I opened the door, I don't know why, and he chased me into the house, past the parents, right? Past the parents, and I ran into the living room and hid behind the settee. He pulled the settee away, pulled it like violently, and came after me. And I was like 8, and it shocked the shit out of me, right? It shocked the shit. I thought, holy crap, this thing has went past my parents and came after me. And I think it probably, looking back at it, probably traumatized me. And I was absolutely fascinated of the power of horror, because fear is like such a powerful thing that
primal motivator.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and that's whenever I'm doing like images, like horror images, I want to do something that maybe somebody will look at and feel uncomfortable about, and it's like trying to relive that feeling of horror and uncomfortableness. And that's why a lot of the time I don't do horror covers where it's a lot of blood and guts and it's like screaming whatever. It's a lot of the time it's like the subtle thing of like you walk around a corner and there's like a ghost standing there.
Yeah.
It's not screaming at you. It's not that cheap sort of gimmick sometimes that they use in films to just get a quick scare. It's really what you see out of the side of your eye, something just standing still, and what is it gonna do? Has it seen me? Like in a nightmare or something like that.
It's funny. I know exactly what you're talking about, because it reminds me of sort of 1970s, 1980s horror movies. The stuff sort of John Carpenter was making. I loved all his stuff.
Yeah.
I know it's not classed as a horror movie, but Assault on Precinct 13, where everything was mostly shot. The antagonists were in shadows. The Fog again.
The Fog is one of the films that I am fascinated with and have been, all my life. Basically, it is an incredible film. That, along with the original George Romero films, those things I was obsessed with.
Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead,
Day of the Dead, and those films I was obsessed with. And The Fog, The Fog is one terrifying film, absolutely terrifying, and it's like I want to do some art covers that give that kind of feeling out,
fear.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff I have in my head that I haven't got out yet. There's talk of things to come that I don't want to say anything about because it may not happen. But there's a lot of projects in the talk that I'm sort of behind the scenes that I'm having conversations about. That I hope sort of come about because I want to get my teeth into some of that stuff,
What would be what would be your dream project?
God, I don't know. I think it's rather than a dream project. I think my thing is there's collections of things. You know, it's like, as I said about like covers, it's not like to do a whole graphic novel of interiors. It's like do this cover, then do another cover of something else, and another. So I want to do like, you know, I want to move into some of the superhero stuff,
which is a dramatic break away from the horror stuff that you've built a lot of your career on. You know?
I think it's like, you know, you're just building different muscles again, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of, it's like your football sticker collection set, you know, that you're trying to collect the whole thing, you know, or something. You're kind of, you just try, not that I like football at all, but you're trying to, I've got a lot of things in my, iconic things in my head that I want to do my version of, you know.
So this leads me to ask, because you've talked a lot about your love of cover art.
Yeah.
What made you want to do interiors with Esther the Relic, your create-your-own project? Create-your-own project, which you got me involved to write, and we had Simon Bisley involved with this.
Totally.
What made you want to do interiors with that specific project?
I don't know. There was something about the idea, I can't remember where it came from or what, but the idea of like medieval, like robotic knights and stuff, you know.
I remember specifically you said to me, because we were having a talk about it, and it was based on that heavy metal cover, and I had written down an idea for a story based on that cover that I thought would make sense, you know, in the context of it. And we sat down, and you said, "I want medieval knights," and we must have argued for about half an hour over pints, and then you told me to go and watch one of your favourite films,
Excalibur.
John Boorman's Excalibur. And I did. I hadn't seen it in about a decade, and I rewatched it. And it was, it blew my mind. I forgot how good it was, you know.
It's, there, like, the funny thing is, whenever I go to comic conventions, a lot of the time I sort of pick them because there's historic sites around the convention. So I was, like, maybe 2 years ago, I was doing a lot of conventions around England and Scotland, and I would usually go to somewhere that had like a castle or had cathedrals and, you know, effigies of knights in, you know, tombs in the cathedrals and stuff. And I love history, you know.
You're sort of obsessed with that Templar era of knights, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, because we've a lot of information about it, you know, but what sort of, it's like, how do you put the meat on the bones of that? You know, what were the people like, you know, what were their personalities like, you know, what was it actually really like to live in that era, and you know, what the hell would a medieval battle be like? You know, I know you see things on TV and stuff, but it's not, you know, there's no way on earth it was anything close to that. It would have been absolutely horrifying and brutal. Like stuff that we are just not, you know, we couldn't understand these days, you know.
Well, I read a book on the Templars, and they came about, they were the impoverished knights of the temple. That's where they came from, and they manifested out of pilgrims going to the Holy Lands and getting slaughtered in great numbers. And what was interesting was these knights popped up out of that, and over a period of time they became this sort of geopolitical force. They were very, very wealthy. They sort of controlled or influenced politics of that era. You know, they had a real foothold. So they're fascinating. They're a really fascinating chapter of our history. So whenever you said to me, you know, medieval knights, I didn't know that much about it. So I had to go and watch Excalibur, read a book. And
they like to push the pram a lot.
That's a reference to Monty Python's Holy Grail. If you haven't seen it, guys, enrich your life and watch that. In Camelot, they eat Spamalot. In Camelot, it's one of my favourite movies.
Yeah.
One of my favourite movies. That's great. It's a masterpiece. And,
Masterpiece,
and it just had some it had some great moments in it. Specifically, one of my favourite moments was the rabbits.
Oh, the rabbit, yeah, that's it.
And the holy hand grenade of
The
Antioch.
holy hand grenade is the
Oh
best.
god, it was great.
I love that.
And the Black Knight, obviously. But anyway, we reminisce about that all day. The Python films were amazing. You couldn't, unfortunately, I don't think you could make those things nowadays because they'd upset too many people. But coming from our generation, we grew up on that stuff
totally.
And loved it. You know.
What should we say about comics?
Oh yeah, we haven't really talked about comics too much.
What do you think we should say about it? I don't know. One thing is, it's an awful lot harder than you would imagine. The
comic industry now.
Comic industry, yeah. I mean, it's God. I don't know. I think number one, you know, but I always got these comments. Oh, at least you're drawing all day, you know. But it's not, you know. When you have to draw something, when you're put to a deadline, and then you kind of have to do a certain cover or something, and then your brain's fried because you've only literally came off the last cover, you know, and you've had no time of a break to recuperate. It's hard work, you know. It's not, you know, you don't get time to rest. You don't, you know.
And you always have to be hustling, don't you? You're always chasing the next gig.
Yeah. I remember the first year I was working with Simon on the Tar Chronicles for Legendary Entertainment, and we were doing so many pages that, you know, I didn't need to look for any work because it just went on and on and on and on and on. I don't know how many graphic novels we did, maybe, God, I don't know, 8 or more.
8 graphic novels, that's huge.
A lot.
And Matt Wagner wrote that?
Yeah, Matt Wagner wrote it, and Greg and Bob Schreck were the editors.
Bob Schreck, you know, DC, former DC guy.
Yeah. It was great. That was great. You know, great time. It was like one of those things where you kind of, it almost didn't come to an end, you know, but when it did come to an end, you kind of thought, oh shit, you know, now I'm actually in a situation where I need to start looking for work. And as I said before, I started colouring other people's covers. Greg Stables. I did a couple of covers with Liam Sharp. Glenn Fabry, I did a lot of covers with him. And then I got my chance with IDW doing the V-War stuff, written by Jonathan Mabry.
Jonathan Mabry, his V-Wars has recently been picked up as a TV show.
Yep. Jonathan is a great writer.
He's really. I read a lot of his Marvel.
Great.
He did the Punisher, V's the Marvel Universe stuff, and the Avengers and Wolverine V's the Marvel Universe. Absolutely fantastic. Sort of Plague style stuff. It's like it wasn't zombies. It was like almost like everybody'd been turned into a crazy cannibal. Really, really good stuff.
That's right. And you know, the V-Wars, it went for maybe 12 or 13 issues, and then it went on a break. But you know, it's now been picked up by, I think, Netflix.
Netflix picked it up.
Yep.
Wow.
But from that, I think on the side I was working, doing a lot of samples of like 2000 AD characters and things like Judge Dredd, and I sent them in to Matt Smith, you know, by email. He's the editor for 2000 AD, and I would send it in, and I would get like a short reply, nice Dredd image. But what I heard was, this is the normal, you know. So
Matt's very succinct, isn't he? He doesn't. I think it's probably because he has so much
Oh God,
on
I
the
don't
slush
know
pile
how.
that he just
Yeah.
he's very curt when he gets back to you.
I don't know how they actually do what they do, because they're bringing an issue out every single week.
Every week, yeah.
And they have a Dread magazine once a month. And I have no idea how they're doing it. You know, it's a lot of work. The quality's incredible. You know, they have so many artists and stuff. I'm not surprised they don't. He replies with like a single kind of sentence or whatever. But I at that point I was. It's like as an artist or a writer, you're hoping that somebody's going to come out with like a short essay on, you know, what they liked and what they hated about your artwork, so that you know
you want
how to
real
move forwards. You know,
yeah, you want some real meaty critical feedback.
Yeah.
But in the early stages, especially whenever you're just breaking into a company, you have to deal with just very short sentences a lot of the time. People don't have a lot of time, I guess, so they're actually a lot of what you get back most of the time is very sharp.
Oh, totally. Editors are working behind the scenes, and they're working very hard. You know, it's like the kind of unsung heroes of comics. You know, everybody hears the writers and artists' names and stuff, but very rarely will they actually look to see who the editors are.
That's true.
I'll tell you, they work their asses off, and very underappreciated, I think. I think, but I did maybe about 5 or 8 or something samples, and the last one I sent, he says, nice Dread image, we'll take it. And so that was like my first cover for 2018. And then I did a whole pile after that. I'm not sure how many, but I've been mainly working. I did a lot of covers for. I did 2 covers for Creepy Comics for Darkhorse. That was good fun, but it went on a hiatus. So.
And is it coming back? Do you know?
It's hard to say. I hear
because I am a fan of Creepy.
Yeah. I hear conflicting sort of reports, but can't really say at the minute. But I would like it to come back.
Yeah, here's hoping, because
totally.
Your 2 was it 2 covers you did?
Yeah, 2 covers. Yeah.
Your 2 covers were 2 of my favorite covers.
Okay.
The Graveyard one in particular was mind-bogglingly detailed.
Thank you.
And I just couldn't believe it whenever I saw it, and it sold out, I believe.
Yeah. The 2 of those sold out. But I really enjoyed that, and I want to get back into that. Get into that type of horror, the old sort of style stuff.
The subtle horror that we would have sort of grown up on.
Yeah. It's like me and Helena watched The Woman in Black.
Oh, yes. The original or the...
What were you saying there? Oh,
BBC
she actually
one?
said something there. Do you want to say anything else?
The original. It's the best.
That's the
The BBC version.
The BBC version and the BBC... And who starred in it?
What is the BBC?
I don't know who starred in it, but it was really Victorian. I don't know.
Weren't a fan of the Daniel Radcliffe version?
No.
Right, Helena's pushed me away. Yeah. She doesn't want to talk anymore. She's like, get it away. Get your phone out of my face. Jeremy's.
Yeah, well, I mean, that type of stuff, that's the real creepy horror. And is it the Signalman or Railway? Signalman, I think it is. That's who was that? It was like who was the writer? The guy that did the Christmas, all the Christmas. I think it was something like that. I don't know. The Signalman, the BBC version is incredible if you watch it.
Understated, not like people just jumping out, going crazy.
Real proper horror. Real scary, creepy, disturbing stuff. Yeah.
So it's sort of how would you say it's more subtle, understated, and cerebral horror as opposed to
jumps.
Yeah, as opposed to the gory overkill horror of sort of modern times, where it's people getting their torso cut open and
Yeah, there's no, there's a place for it all, but that's I kind of like the idea that a cover tells a story, and you can sit and look at it, and you can like immerse yourself into that one image. Just like a painting on a wall. It's like
Absolutely.
people have been doing for years. And you can look at that one painting for a long time, and you're like absorbed. It's slightly hypnotic. You're absorbed into that image.
It's interesting to hear you say this, because it's an artistic sensibility that seems to be quite old-timey in a way, because we have this incredibly disposable culture now where everything's there and gone. It's clickbaity. Everything's disposable. But one of the things I love about comics, and this is what I love about comics, especially whenever you get the physical copies of something or the hardbound editions, whether it be the soft cover or whatever, is that you can pick it off your shelf and look through it and look at these beautiful images. And they, especially, I've got some books of sci-fi art that I occasionally pick up, and it's just transportational. It takes you to that place.
Totally.
And I know you can do that with CGI nowadays, but there's something about art. Josh Kirby, I think his name is. He was the guy who did the Discworld series books for Terry Pratchett. And I remember I had a book of his original art, and I would just take it off the shelf and look at it. And I get the same with your covers. I just like to take. I like to sometimes I like to, because we're mates on Facebook, I like to go and have a look through your your
here we go.
I'm in there stalking you.
Yeah, because I opened my living room window, the blinds once, and I saw a figure out there. That was you.
That was me. You just saw you saw the moonlight bouncing off my bald head as I squatted in the bushes and went, Ryan Brown, you will be mine.
What's he drawing now?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And it was probably around the time that you were doing the Ninja Turtles comics, and I wanted an exclusive because I am a big Ninja Turtles fan.
Well, they've did like I think it's a micro series. It was like 4 covers of each of the turtles. I just literally finished the last one this week, and I finished a Lady Death cover. And I'm on
Brian Pulido.
Yeah, and I'm on to the next Lady Death cover for like a Halloween special, as far as I know.
Oh, excellent! Well, that sounds fantastic, because I've seen the Lady Death cover that you did, and it was really, really nice.
Thank you.
So, I think that's something that you are really just starting into now, and that is the whole cheesecake. Genre of sort of pin-up type covers, where you've got these these gorgeous sort of babe art type stuff.
Well, it's again on the list. It's another one of those things. It's like it's not something that I'm going to move into. It's just something that I want to do. Yeah, it is. It's like I want to do it. Like if you're talking about pin-up stuff, you've got Olivia.
Oh yeah, you're friends with Olivia.
Well, I've met her a few times, and
beautiful
I've had
artist.
Nice conversation. She is a lovely person and an absolutely incredible artist. Incredible artist, and it's one of those things. It's like whenever I go to a convention, or when I've been to San Diego a couple of times here, and you go around and you have a chat to some of the artists, and you're talking to people that you like. I had books of Olivia's art, from years ago. I remember getting them as like Christmas presents or whatever. Yeah. And I just thought, oh my God, how the hell can somebody actually paint like this? And those type of people, you can look at it 2 ways. They can put you off.
Yeah,
or they can inspire you to do better. And very often, they'll utterly freak me out, and I'll go look at my stuff and go, oh my God, this is just terrible. And then I'll kind of pull myself out of the pity party, and then I'll go, right, I need to work harder. Yeah, and that's just. That's the way it goes. There's like Bill Sankovich, Glenn Fabry, Simon Bisley, Olivia. like Liam Sharp. There's all these people.
It's strange because we're in quite close proximity
Yeah.
to a lot of these guys as well.
Yeah.
Like Glenn lives around the corner.
Yeah.
There's yourself. Simon's he's only across the channel, really.
Yeah.
We're all in quite close proximity, so it's funny we do get to meet up from time to time and sort of shoot the shit and have conversations and compare notes.
Totally.
That's one of the great things. It's a really nice little. You become friends.
Totally. But look, some of the best in the business, and what I mean, like. Not just like comic art, as illustrators, as actual illustrators, you'd be hard pushed to go into a gallery and find somebody that could draw better than a lot of these people, or paint better than a lot of these people. And a lot of the time, I think, in certain circumstances, comics are belittled and thought of a lower kind of position than something that's hung in an art gallery.
Well, I agree with you because I talked to Peter Duncan about this recently, and he says that there is and if you look at Asia, for instance, they've got a booming comic market. It's enormous. It's absolutely enormous. Yeah. If you look at France, again, booming. But if you look at the UK, US market, there's still that. We spoke about Frederick Wortham. He wrote that book, Seduction of the Innocent, which saw a lot of publications driven out of business because of the idea that comics were corrupting the youth. They were somehow polluting young minds, and so comic art became seen as something that was condescended. It was, second rate. And I think that attitude has held. Funnily enough, it's passed between generations. Where the reality is, whenever I grew up in the 1980s, looking at comic book art, looking at guys like Frank Frazetta, Bernie Wrightson, Neil Adams, Bisley, Mike McMahon, all the great UK and US artists. For me, this was the equivalent of looking at a Renaissance painting, or a painting in a gallery. It was that groundbreaking and that mind expanding to look at it.
There is no difference. There is no difference. There's some of those artists and the illustrators and comics that are absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's disturbing. There's if you look, there's a guy called Ben Oliver in England.
I know him, yeah.
Ben's artwork is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
We met him in Bristol the last time we were there, very briefly.
Lovely guy. There's a lot of people out there. A lot of people producing absolutely amazing stuff. And they're producing it. It's consistent,
Yeah. Do you think there's any? Do you think that because the industry is so difficult to get into now, because of this great swarm of talent that's constantly knocking at the door, do you think the standard just keeps rising and rising? Its adversity is sort of breeding these.
Okay, there's like a lot of things here, right? You've got we're now in a different world. In the past you would have had to go into an office, maybe 2008's office or whatever, bring in a printed out whatever and sort of try and get a job that way.
In the UK,
yeah, in the UK. But now you have emails, but so you could say, okay, that's easier for me now, but it's easier for the whole world, which means now that all these companies are absolutely swamped by everybody sending in their artwork. The whole world, you could be up a mountain, you could be up Mount Everest, sitting there painting covers, and
the abominable snowman shows up, and he's like, "That's not bad, Ryan, but you could probably do better."
That's it.
And then,
God damn you! Goddamn you abominable snowman.
and then you're like, hey, don't listen to fictional characters. You don't dictate to
Are you saying
me.
he's fictional?
Well, we don't know. He might exist.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, and we'll never know
yeah.
because Alex Jones has been taken off YouTube,
Oh,
and
shit.
he would have been
There
the
you
guy
go
to tell
then.
us.
Oh,
You know, he would have been the guy. Poor Alex. But anyway, you know, the point you were making is that you know, you can send in
the floodgates
art from anywhere.
The floodgates are opened, and everybody is swarming in. You know, people with incredible talents, people with no talent, are all firing emails with all their artwork saying, you know, what about me? Can I get a job? So, you know, it's in a way, I think it is hard. It's hard as well. It's. I think both situations, you know, are equally as hard. I think these days it's hard because you're now in like a crowd of people. So how do you get seen that way? And in the other situation, it was you had to go to the office
In the past.
or post. Yeah, in the past, you had to post things in or something. You know,
I heard stories in the past of trying to, you know, if you had to get a job, if you wanted to get a job in, say, Marvel Comics or DC Comics, you had to be in Manhattan. You had to go there.
Yeah.
Frank Miller famously went out to learn his craft off Neil Adams.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I think in the olden days, you had to be where the comic company was,
Yeah.
and you had to be knocking their door. You had to maybe be, you know, a T-boy or something
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
to get a foot in the door. Whereas now you
Totally.
can email them, but you know you're going to be in a massive slush pile.
Yeah.
So perhaps
You-
you know.
The best thing you can do is try and build your profile on social media, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. You know, torturing editors is probably not the best way to do it. A lot of the time, build a bit of a following, build a portfolio. You know, try and do your best, and that will. I mean, Facebook and Instagram will show you whether you're, you know, you've maybe got what is required. Because a lot of the time then you'll build a bit of a following there. You know, people will start seeing your stuff and you'll get a bit of a feedback on your artwork. But if you can, get an artist that's in the industry and try and get some feedback that way as well. And don't be offended when people say, you know, it's not too standard at the moment. You know, because you know, everybody's had that, and we've all had knocks and stuff, but it's just how you kind of push through that, because that is life in general. You know, it's.
Well, it's funny, you're right, because like you know, straight up, whenever I submitted my first Future Shocks to 2000 AD, like the first couple, I didn't even get a response.
Yeah.
And then finally I got a response, and it was not what we're looking for at the moment. But the key really was perseverance, but also getting to know people who worked for the publication, who could, you know, help me out, give me a push in the right direction. You know, were prepared to talk about their experiences doing it, and that's. I mean, I think for any budding writers or artists, the key is to, like you say, raise your profile, talk to people, and become friends with people. Don't just use them as, you know, don't sort of prostitute the friendship as some sort of means to ladder climb. But befriend people, be genuine. You know. Totally.
You know, it is hard, but you know, if you stick at it, some of it's luck. You know, but if you've got skill and personality.
And you're reliable.
You know, and you're reliable. And, you know, hopefully there's a chance you could get in there, and you know.
So what are you going to be working on next, then?
Oh God! I have to do the Lady Death cover still, the Halloween.
Is this other thing you've probably supposed to do?
What is that?
It's this thing. this thing that you're supposed to do ages ago, but you haven't.
Oh, right, okay.
I think, you know.
No, I have to do issue 2 of Esther. Yeah.
Don't sound too enthusiastic. Oh God.
It's called The Trauma of Collecting, or having all these things to do, and yeah, I should have been. Well, no, I had plans on doing that a lot of months ago, and what happened was all these deadlines started happening. And it was like, yeah, they just mounted up, and I had to get all those done. But it is on the cards, and it is still there, and it's going to get done. Simon has...
He's done a couple of pages.
He's did some layouts for them. Yeah, layouts. So I'm going to digitally paint over the layouts.
Yeah.
And we have issue 3 story sort of on...
I've got it plotted.
Yeah,
but,
it's plotted. So it's moving, it's slow, but it's we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
And so Lady Death, Esther, anything else?
Well, the Ninja Turtle stuff I finished.
Yeah, you finished Ninja Turtles.
I can't. There's stuff I can.
You can't talk about.
Say,
So
know what people. Here's the thing. That's like one of those things like where I've no work and then I have to sound like I've actually got work. Well, I've got some really great work.
I've got some stuff in the pipeline. It's not that I'm not doing anything. I've got some stuff in the pipe. I just can't talk about it.
It's really important with really important people, and I'm going to be jetting off to these really important countries to speak about these important projects. There's Helena laughing. You better not laugh. I'm telling you.
I know what happens.
Those checks, she said, Ryan, those checks better start rolling in. I'm telling you.
I know what happens when you and Helena go to these places.
Yeah.
You sit and man a desk all day, and then Helena goes, Ryan.
Yeah, I need money for shoes.
I'm going to get shoes.
Yeah, I joked to Fico about that.
Fico Osseo.
Yeah, he's doing like the
IDW.
He's doing the Spider-Man stuff for IDW.
It's been outsourced to IDW. Yeah.
Very good artist, very nice.
Lovely guy as well. Very nice man.
Yeah, but his wife likes shoes, and so he's going to have to shell a lot of shoes out now.
Oh yeah, now that he's got that shoe money coming
That's it. He's got shoe money. Shoe money.
That mad Spidey money is going to be translated into shoe money.
I'm telling you, yeah.
Well, so before we wrap this up, and this is something a lot of young creators have sort of been. A lot of people have asked me about, and that is, do you think it's viable to make a decent living in comics, or are you going to have to, really hit it big, or?
Okay, I'll give you 2 answers, right?
Okay.
Oh yeah, you can make a lot of money in comics. Oh yeah, it's really good. And get yourself a nice house and a nice car and one of those lovely wind up airplanes and go on holiday every other weekend and do the odd cover, smoke one of those cigars in one of those cigar holders. What a great lifestyle this is.
And what's the other answer?
And the swirly circles into the reality. It's a fucking disaster.
Oh God. Are you just going to leave it with that?
Yeah.
Comic books, everybody. It's a fucking disaster. Ryan Brown, 2018. Yeah, but on the plus side, you've had a really positive experience working in comics.
No. All right. I think I have at one point, but I can't remember because I've been drunk all the time since then. With the depression, the drinking and depression. Oh God! Helena, say something positive, Helena.
I don't have anything.
Well, there you go. I don't know. What do we say?
Well, I'll tell you what. It's been an absolute pleasure because we're good friends, and it's been a pleasure to finally get you on, considering comic books, because you're a hugely talented artist. You're a good mate of mine, and don't know that the three people who listen to my podcast will give you any more massive
Probably don't even know who I am.
I don't know that they're going to boost your profile.
Let me end at this. I was at a convention once, and a little boy walked past my table, and he read the sign and said, "Ryan Brown." And as he walked past, he didn't stop. As he walked past, he said, "Who's Ryan Brown anyway?" Had a crumble was left of your soul. It was just crumbled up in the corner and swept away at the end of that convention.
Oh, Jesus. Well, on that happy note, well, listen,
And it's a goodbye from me.
listen, this has been fantastic. We'll have to do this again sometime because
This has to be called the intermission episode.
yeah, he told me this before we started, and it is because Ryan is naturally self-deprecating, as well as being a massive
I
perfectionist.
thought you said self-defecating.
Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. We'll do this again sometime soon. Hopefully, whenever we do, you've got something interesting coming out, or we're doing Esther issue 2.
That could be a long time.
And Helena, do you want to say bye?
Bye.
Well, listen, guys, this has been Considering Comic Books. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had as much fun as we have. And if you, or if you'd like, please leave some comments and let us know what you thought. We always love to hear from you. And until next time, this has been Mark,
Ryan.
Helena.
Goodbye, folks, and all the best.
Actually, when you see it didn't record.
Oh, that was great. Thanks for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me at Consider Comics on Twitter. That's Consider_comics, and you can check out my own work with my artistic collaborator, very talented Ryan Brown, over at his website, ryanbrownart.com, where the first part of our free online webcomic, Esther the Relique, is available for free. Please enjoy, and if you like it or hate it, and you've got any criticism or feedback, we would love to hear from you.